Welcome back to our channel, everyone. It is a beautiful Tuesday, and we are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us as we unpack the latest, mind-bending drama unfolding in Genoa City. The tension is palpable, the stakes have never been higher, and we have so much to discuss today. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let us dive straight into the deep end of this incredible story. Okay, no. This cannot be a coincidence anymore. I am looking at my notes, I am replaying the scenes in my head, and I am literally spiraling over the sheer psychological warfare we just witnessed. The timing of this is absolute, undeniable, glaringly obvious timing of Vanessa rushing to the backyard to burn Doug's last remaining belongings right now. Right after last weekend's massive, earth-shattering revelation that Doug might be showing signs of resurfacing. No, I refuse to believe she just suddenly decided, on a random Tuesday, that it was time to move on and do some spring cleaning of a dead man's legacy. That is a lie. A massive, suffocating, perfectly constructed lie. Why not burn his things from the very beginning? If she wanted a clean break, if she wanted to scrub the house of his memory, she had months, years even, to do it. She could have donated his clothes. She could have quietly boxed up his office and put it in a storage unit. But she didn't. She waited until the exact moment the whispers started. The second there was a hint, just a microscopic hint, that Doug's presence was leaking back into their reality, Vanessa panicked. And I don't mean a mild, oh this is uncomfortable panic. I mean a visceral, terrifying, strike a match and watch it burn level of absolute dread. She wasn't mourning as she watched those flames. She was destroying evidence. Wait, why did the camera focus on that object? Did anyone else catch that? Right before the fire really took hold of the box, the camera lingered just for a fraction of a second on something specific at the bottom of the pile. It wasn't a shirt. It wasn't a tie or a sentimental watch. It looked like paper, thick, bound paper, a diary. A stack of legal documents, a confession letter. Why would the director intentionally pull our focus to that specific item right before it was turned to ash? Because it wasn't random junk, it was the key to everything. There was something in those relics that Vanessa absolutely could not allow Daenna to see. Some people in the forums are saying this is all about Joey. They are arguing that Vanessa is just trying to erase the past, to wipe away every last trace of Doug so she can fully commit to her new life with Joey. They think she wants to force Daenna to forget her father so the girl will have no choice but to accept Joey as the new patriarch of the family. And sure, on the surface, that makes a twisted kind of sense. But think about the emotional blackmail happening there. She is incinerating her daughter's last physical connection to her dead father to forcefully manipulate her into accepting a new man. That is not love. That is manipulation through affection. It is a hostile takeover of Daenna's emotional landscape. But honestly, I think the Joey excuse is just that, an excuse. A convenient shield Vanessa is using to hide her true motives. Nobody in this show says what they actually mean. Vanessa is playing the role of the desperate woman trying to move on, but her eyes tell a completely different story. When Daenna caught her by the fire, when she started aggressively questioning her mother, Vanessa didn't look like a woman defending her new romance. She looked like a trapped animal. She looked absolutely terrified of exposure. And then the confrontation happened. The slap. Oh my God, we have to talk about the slap. When Daenna's hand connected with Vanessa's cheek, the sound was like a gunshot echoing in that quiet yard. It was the culmination of years of generational resentment, of buried trauma, of unspoken anger finally boiling over into physical violence. Vanessa's head snapped to the side. She was in shock. But then, I slowed the footage down, and I swear to you, I saw it. That smile looked fake, like painfully fake. It was a micro-expression, gone in a millisecond, but it was there. It wasn't a smile of happiness. It was a grimace of twisted, sick relief. Why would a mother feel relieved that her daughter just struck her with pure, unadulterated hatred? because she would rather Daenna hate her for burning some old sweaters than hate her for the real secret. Vanessa is willingly absorbing her daughter's wrath. She is accepting the role of the villain, letting Daenna despise her, because the alternative is so much worse. It is revenge disguised as forgiveness. Or maybe it's a twisted form of maternal sacrifice. Is she protecting the family, or is she protecting herself? Hold on, I need to go back. I am losing my train of thought because my hands are shaking just typing this out. Let's look at Doug. Who was Doug really? Daenna worshipped the ground he walked on. She put his memory on a pedestal so high that no one could ever reach it. But what if that pedestal was built on a foundation of absolute garbage? What if Daenna's father lived a completely different life than the one his family knew? What if that diary, or those letters, or whatever was in that box, contained absolute proof of a double life? Financial ruin, another family, criminal ties. If Doug was a monster, or even just a deeply flawed liar, finding that out would cause a complete identity collapse for Daenna. Everything she believed about her childhood, her parents' marriage, her own reality, it would all shatter. Is Vanessa burning the evidence to protect Doug's memory for Daenna? Is she taking the hits, taking the slap, taking the hatred, just to keep Daenna's image of her perfect father intact? If so, that is a devastatingly tragic level of buried trauma she is carrying. But what if it's the other way around? What if the secret isn't Doug's? What if the secret is Vanessa's? I think latest episode number hinted at this. There was that brief moment where Vanessa was staring out the window, and she had this look of absolute nausea. Not grief, guilt. Did Vanessa betray Doug? Was she the one who ruined the marriage long before he died? Was the marriage that Daenna so deeply admired actually just a meticulously crafted lie, a hollow shell of a relationship held together by deception? Even worse, does Vanessa know the truth about her husband's death? Does she know more than she ever admitted to the police, to her friends, to her own daughter? The timing of the burning happening right when Doug shows signs of resurfacing makes me sick to my stomach. If Doug's death wasn't what it seemed, and evidence is starting to bubble up to the surface, Vanessa burning his things isn't an act of moving on. It is an act of obstruction of justice. She is terrified of being found out. The panic in her voice when Daenna interrogated her wasn't annoyance. It was the sheer terror of a woman whose carefully constructed house of cards is about to be blown away by a hurricane. I completely forgot why this mattered. Right, Joey. Joey is the catalyst. Joey is the match that lit the fuse, but he is not the explosive. Vanessa is using Joey as the perfect alibi. I'm doing this for us, Joey. I'm doing this so we can be a real family. It's brilliant, really. She wraps her destruction of evidence in the warm, fuzzy blanket of romantic commitment. And Joey, being oblivious, probably believes it. But Daenna doesn't. Daenna feels the wrongness of it in her bones. Children always know when their parents are lying, even if they don't know exactly what the lie is. Daenna feels the emotional dissonance. She knows her mother is acting erratically, violently erasing history without a word of warning. Why act so hastily without telling her daughter? Because if she told Daenna, Daenna would have asked to look through the boxes one last time. And Vanessa could never, ever let that happen. No, wait, that earlier scene changes this. Remember how Vanessa reacted when Daenna simply asked about Doug a few weeks ago? She completely shut down. She deflected. She turned the conversation back to Daenna's life. It's a classic avoidance tactic, but burning the items. That is an active, aggressive measure. You don't escalate from passive avoidance to aggressive destruction unless the threat level has exponentially increased. The threat is real. Doug, or the truth about Doug, is coming for her. And now we are left with the wreckage of this mother-daughter relationship. Daenna slapped her own mother. The physical boundary has been broken. How do you come back from that? When the truth is finally dragged out into the light, and it will be, because secrets in this town never stay buried, will Daenna ever be able to forgive Vanessa? If Vanessa burned the items to protect Daenna from Doug's dark truth, Daenna might eventually understand the sacrifice, but she will never forgive the manipulation. If Vanessa burned the items to protect herself, to hide her own betrayal or complicity in Doug's fate, then Daenna's hatred will solidify into something permanent and dangerous. I am so emotionally exhausted by this. Every time I think I have a handle on Vanessa's psychology, she does something that completely upends my theories. Is she a loving mother making a horrific sacrifice, or a cornered villain destroying the evidence of her sins? The flames reflecting in her eyes during that scene. It wasn't just the fire burning Doug's clothes. It was the fire burning down their entire family history. I am terrified for the next episode. I am terrified of what Daenna is going to uncover in the ashes. Because whatever was in that box, whatever Vanessa thought she destroyed, fire doesn't cleanse everything. Sometimes it just clears the brush so you can see the bones underneath. This is a disaster waiting to happen, and I am desperately trying to piece together the emotional truth before the show drops a devastating bombshell that ruins us all.